here we go.
Yeah, yeah.
It is Zero Trust Cast, Episode 6, brought to you by me, Entropy Sword, and
We're,
oh,
we're just gonna jump right in there, huh?
yeah, we're
Even though
in.
like people don't even know we're there.
They'll get the notification.
So how did they get our beautiful intro? And this is Dark D, coming at you live and fun, even a little 5 minutes before.
Yeah, we're
So,
early.
you know, get showered, put your clothes on and run to your computer, your TV, your phone, whatever you're using to view this, your tablet,
Portal to the
and
internet,
sit back,
whatever.
relax.
Yeah,
Your portal to the internet. There you go.
that's right. Because we're gonna dive deep today. We got some heavy stuff already lined up.
We start with the rap, baby. We got to start with rap,
Well,
and that being the
that's what I'd like to know.
Don't
Is what your favorite rapper is?
put me on the spot, man.
Do you want me to go first? I'll go first. I'll let you.
I
Think
want
about
you to
this.
go first.
Yeah. So I've been a fan of Ghostface Killah from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay.
We were talking a little bit about him in the pre-show when we were getting warmed up, and
True.
he put out this album. Is his second album. First album was Iron Man, after the comic book character is kind of a comic book-ish inspired album. But the second album was called Supreme Clientele, finest rap album ever made. Every song a banger.
That's a strong statement.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna make all sorts of strong statements today. I'm feeling feisty. Supreme Clientele.
Good. I like it.
Just him. The cover is just him with this like beautiful chrome vintage microphone, and he owns that microphone. Nobody fucks with Ghostface Killah on the mic. There's other rappers who may be more lyrical. There's other rappers with better flow, but the shit that he says, off the top, unbeatable, unbeatable. So
Wow.
thank-
That's a strong statement. I like it.
yeah.
That's really honestly can't say I have a rapper. I mean, I'm gonna sound so stereotypical. But it would be between three, probably Biggie.
Okay.
Even though like a lot of them I can't like actually pull from, Tupac, and Eminem. Just because like Eminem is one of the ones that I think I can actually quote more often. And I like to sing along with more often. And it's it's not just because of the white guy thing. Even though that may feel like, oh yeah, that's why. I don't know, just something flows with me, especially the way he does fast stuff and he does funny stuff and he doesn't take himself too seriously. I don't know, it's more of a personality thing, I guess, instead of a yeah. But I'm also not a wonderful connoisseur of the rap art lyrical style that you absolutely are. I'm more of the musical that like thing that pulls me in. It needs to, the beat needs to be there to get me into it, to actually even be interested in lyrics, and lyrics sometimes like get lost on me. So it's interesting. It's been that's for me in all music, is music first, lyrics way second. So but yeah, I like it because I mean that's what the rapper is, right? It's the fucking the speaker, the rhyme maker, the spitter, right?
I mean that's
not
always
the term, but
been what I've been most interested in is the lyrics. I love music, but the lyrics add some extra dimension. And in fact, in the best rap, the lyrics are the lead instrument, right? So you're hearing the flow
yeah.
to such a degree that it
Yes.
becomes an instrument, becomes the melody that's leading over
Yes.
the bass and the drums. And that's a beautiful
Yes.
thing when you get that
Yes.
and then the flow right on top of it, dropping it. I'm coming apocalypse, this is how I be, simply entropy from the 303. You feeling me?
Exactly. There you go. Damn, dude. That's pretty awesome.
Just right off the top.
Love it.
We should probably talk about Zero Trust a little bit. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
We're not here to talk about rap, although that was a
No.
fun diversion.
Right, but we did talk about it because, and then that'll dive us right into there, right? Because you made a strong statement, right? Which
Sure.
I would happen to agree with. And so if you want to say that again, I mean, rap is probably one of the strongest forms of mnemonics that we have today.
Yeah, so I was
Most powerful.
I would say hip hop, right? Not rap. Rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live, to
Okay.
quote KRS-One. And hip hop as a way of life, right, is
Okay.
engaging with language in a very indirect way, right? You're playing around with it, you're rhyming it, you're flipping words to mean things that they don't normally mean. We were talking about cream, right? Being money. Why is it
Yeah.
money? Well, cash rules everything around me. It's an acronym. So it's like these
Right.
levels of like how deep into it are you? How versed are you in the slang to be able to be conversant with that?
Right.
So
Well said.
we're going to talk a lot about language and memetics and the memes and mnemonics that come out
Meaning.
of it, right? Meaning and twisting of the
Right.
meaning, and who controls the language controls the minds. I think is a good way to start this,
I
right?
like that.
So
Ooh.
let's do a little brief recap, right? We talked last time about zero trust, right? Is an IT security model, right? We're both from IT, despite what it looks like now. Is an IT security model that requires strict identity verification for every person and device trying to access resource on a private network, regardless of whether they are sitting within or outside of the network perimeter. And we kind of talked about perimeters and insides and outsides and how those things are defined. But in this episode, we want to go to the next paragraph in this definition, this long definition, which we'll put in the chat if I can remember later.
I just threw it in there right now.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
And I'll do it
So-
a couple times.
yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
So let me read this. Traditional IT network security is based on a castle and moat concept, kind of old school feudalistic. In castle and moat
good visual.
security, yeah, it is. It's hard to obtain access from the outside of the network, but everyone inside the network is trusted by default. The problem with this approach is that once an attacker gains access to the network, they have free reign over everything inside.
Right. Like a spy or somebody that infiltrator.
Mm-hmm. Right. So once whatever perimeter you might have is breached, you're done.
Set up for protection.
Right.
Right.
Because you don't have any verification on any individual parts, and so that's kind of what we want to
You're
talk
no longer
about.
secure.
Yeah.
Right.
Is
Got it.
that
Okay.
that model doesn't really work in the modern age. You can't have a castle with a moat, and
Moat. Right.
you have only things that are trusted on the inside. You have to have this open commerce of ideas with everybody on the internet. How do you know what articles you're going to let in to your castle? How do you know what ideas you're going to let in? And if you accidentally let in one that might be dangerous, what are your remediation steps? I think I talk
Right.
about in the notes. Where am I going? There. Validation and rectification was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. And that's like, okay, I know something is true. Let me validate that. If it doesn't validate, if it doesn't check out, then I have to do a rectification or a remediation of that idea. So
Right.
where are we in terms of the world that's impressing itself upon us? It's giving us all these ideas now, more than ever. And we have to not do battle with them, but engage with them in this sort of philosophical back and forth, this debate, this conversation that we're
To
having.
vet it.
Right? To vet it.
Right.
To see if
Right.
other people are also seeing the same thing, to see if other people are also, getting the same conclusions that we are. And if they are their premises the same as our premises? So they might be coming to the same conclusion, but from a completely different point of view that we may not agree with. We're like, oh, wait,
Promise.
we ended up in the same space, but we believe different base truths. So that might be a problem.
Right.
So where do you want to go from here,
Right.
Dark D?
Well, so I want to like reference back to the castle and moat concept, right? Because that's what it's based on, right? Which is so it's powerful, but the it gets lost because that's obviously you can't do that for groups of people anymore. Like you just said, we're
Hmm.
global now. Ideas are coming from everywhere. So like there's no castle to retreat to. There's no moat surrounding that castle,
Hmm.
and there's no drawbridge to lift up to it.
Hmm.
Right. So now we're basically the castle is our minds,
Hmm.
right? The moat is I guess the way with which your defenses are created and put up, to block, right? Because a moat is huge. It blocks, right? It's got big ass walls, so you can't go over it unless you create flying things, right? That can drop over it. So you have that. Maybe you have a dome over it, right? You have a place to go in, and then you have big ass water, acid, whatever you want to think about, fire, like liquid fire, all that around it. So really, like those defense mechanisms, those are the things we're talking about. So that analogy, I think, still holds, but we just need to now then go inward and set it for ourselves and operate from that, because the concept works, but
Hmm.
you have to translate it. It's analogous. It's terrible saying that word, to the old school castle and moat, but you have to understand what your castle is, your mind. Very important to protect that fucker, right? For the
Hmm.
things that you want, and how you want to proceed within your life, and make sure it's not infiltrated by things that you didn't desire it to be there. And
Hmm.
you figure out, like, wait, how did I get here? Well, you don't realize you didn't even have any defenses, and sometimes somebody can even hijack your castle and make you think you're even in your same castle. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, this isn't Mario. There are 8 levels, and the princess is in the wrong castle.
Hmm.
You better know what fucking castle you're in, which is your own mind, and you better learn how to protect it. And I think that's important.
Hmm.
That's a good analogy for it. So I just want to use with that, but I think it would be great to go like in group versus out group, because it's almost like that.
Right.
Maybe. So I want to know like what you mean by that, and like let's just go there,
Sure.
because you
So
provided some really good notes. So
yeah, so I was thinking about we talked about emotion, right? Being this
mm,
uh, first defense or this first reaction to threats, right? So when you have an idea that threatens you or appears threatening, you have an emotional reaction to it, and that's sort of the traditional castle and moat. If I have this reaction to it, it's on the outside, and if I have a reaction to it and it feels good, I'm bringing it inside, right? It's okay.
oh yeah,
But we have to do this zero trust now, where just because I have this negative reaction to it, and I'm like, I don't want that, or hey, that's absolutely so good feeling, it must be true. We have to apply the second level critical thinking, which is the validation and the remediation, the rectification. So
right,
it's not that you get rid of your castle, right? It's not that you tear down the walls and get rid of the moat and just let anything in. It's an
right.
even more stringent, secondary, logical process that you do, where you're like, hey, wait a minute.
Actively engaged in
Yeah,
always. Yep.
always actively engaged in, are these ideas working? Is this plan uh, going to get me where I want to go? Do I need to reflect on it further, or should I implement it at this time? If I do implement it, what will be the outcomes, right? Um,
Right.
that's the things that I don't see happening enough in the world, and that's why this podcast exists. That's why we're broadcasting this out, is to elucidate our own thoughts on this, and to have other people come and reflect with us and come and be in the chat and talk to us, and hey, here's what I'm thinking about, and here's the challenges that
Right.
I'm running into.
Right. Well, I think what's interesting that you say that, because like obviously emotions for us as human beings, they're indicators,
Hmm.
indicators of something, right?
Right.
Um, whether they be slight or strong. Um, and then it's okay, and it's going to trigger a response, just like you said. Basically the vetting process starts. But I mean, sometimes because, especially in this day and age of technology, we try to become automated and more efficient,
Right.
as we have so much data bombarding us, to sift through it and continue to keep our head above water and tread in this very changing of the times world, right? Everything's changing always. Like New concepts are coming out always. They're integrated always. Things you thought about yesterday may have been augmented a little bit today because new things, new information is comes to light, right?
Right.
And so that's very difficult for individual human beings to do, right? So we follow trusted sources, right? So and there's a lot just within that like 30 seconds that I was talking that we could probably break down and spend a couple of hours on talking just in that. So it's like emotions are responses, and they're good for us. So like I think I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's just like obviously that's what it feels like everybody's doing is like they're taking the emotional response and they're just running with it, right? It's like emotional response, pick a side or take a trajectory and just run instead of like, well, why am I having this response? What is it about it? What's going on? What can there be something wrong with it? Is somebody trying to lead me in the wrong direction?
Right.
Vetting the process. Is this even true? Right.
Right.
So many different things. So, but we don't, right? Because it hits an emotional response. And I think that can be intentional. So that can be scary, honestly.
Well,
Very scary.
it's scary to me in that it's so exploitable and is being so exploited. I see so many things on the internet designed to hit that emotional core, to get that emotional reaction, to get that, hey, you're in danger, fear, or your particular group is under threat, is being attacked, and that applies
or
to
your group that you identify with is the threat.
right.
Go ahead.
That too. So it's not just a matter of identity or of membership to these groups. It's now the ideologies of the groups that are starting to be broken down and hyper intensified, right? Because of the emotional weight that it carries.
Right.
Right. If you believe that law enforcement is currently under attack in this country, you're going to have an emotional reaction to that because law enforcement, right, means a lot. It means who's in control. It means who has power. It means what laws are being enforced and how. If you believe that there's illegitimacy in how law enforcement has been used, you're going to have an emotional reaction, right? You're going to want to start to tear down and destroy those very foundations that you see, right? But the problem is that both of those are really an emotional reaction. And in both cases, I don't see the second step, which is what do we do to solve it? Or what do we do to replace it? What's the better alternative that could be built? I see a lot of finger pointing. I see a lot of people saying it's X, Y, and Z that is causing.
I see what's
this,
wrong. I see
right?
what's wrong. I see what's wrong.
Right.
Okay.
And there
what
and
do we
there's
do
a
about
certain.
It? I see what's wrong.
Yeah, there's a certain virtue signaling, and virtue is an interesting word that we don't use except in that context very often anymore, right? You don't even say, hey, I want you to talk to this person because they're very virtuous. What?
Right.
Right. Oh, that guy's a really virtuous person. What? But we have virtue signaling, right? We have the appearance. Okay. You want to appear virtuous, but nobody goes through the process of saying what is virtue, which takes us all the way back to Socrates and Plato, right? What is the virtuous life? Okay. What is the good life?
The good life.
Yeah. What does it mean to live a good life?
Can't leave me there. Yeah. Oh, what does it mean to? Okay, got it. Okay, I like that. Yeah, because people are just running with the thing that happened that's created a emotional response. Choose a side because that emotional response is demanding something.
Right.
You have to do something about it. So what it seems like is okay. There's some things to do, and I can do those things that are immediately in my way. And a lot of people that I may be connected with feel the same. What do
Right.
I do? I should go that way. Yeah, I'm backing, because then I'm gonna have discontent between my family and friends and myself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what do I do there? There's, and then all of a sudden, again, it just, even if you do actively do it, it's almost like a, wait, I don't know if I want to do this. So
Right.
it almost just suppresses the actual critical thinking and wanting to vet, because you're almost being a little late to the party of like, well, why haven't you already thrown your hat in the ring?
Right.
Why aren't you backing us? We're out here.
Right.
Like, what's up? We're on one of these sides.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, can we think? I want to say something real quick, which is interesting because, yeah, you said it a couple times, and I feel it's true too. We feel like it's not happening, that people aren't stopping to put their emotions in check and feel through it, think through it, look at both sides, right? Really analytically break it down.
Right.
And there's not a platform for it, definitely. Well, there are starting to be some. I can't reference them, but I'm sure there are some out there. Well, I think we're kind of one of them.
Right.
But so one of the things that I did notice is that there was somebody that feels real heavy on one side. I'm not gonna say one side or another, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he was putting some information out there, and then another person said something, and this goes back to languaging. And then they started like educating each other on it, and went to like, wait, actually no, it's like, how about these things? And then they were providing some solutions, and so I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
The topic that I'm talking about is defunding.
Mm.
That word specifically,
Okay.
right? Defunding the police.
Right.
So that word is confusing and ambiguous,
Mm-hmm.
because what does that mean? Does that mean shut them down? Does that mean never give them money so that they can't like eat?
Right.
What happens if you have a crazy man that's outside your door with a fucking knife or a machete or something, not necessarily a gun, because if he has a gun, it's game over anyway. So like, what do you do? But also, like, if there's a kid hiding under the bed and the gunman's already killed your parents, but what do you do?
Mm.
Do you call the tribunal to come and like figure it out real quick? No, there's not that, right? But like, so what do you do? And it's like, totally get rid of. And someone on the opposite side, so you can tell that one of the people is already on the side of like, well, wait, what do we do with that?
Right.
Not necessarily because they absolutely love and believe everything that the police do is proper and right, but like honestly, like, well, wait, what do we do? Because holy fuck, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Right? For some people don't care. Some people really like the idea of anarchy and let the world burn, right?
Right.
Let the chips fall where they may. There are extremes everywhere. Like, fine, okay, I acknowledge this. I'm not going to say one thing's better than another, because I honestly don't know, and I've never seen an anarchical society. That's not a word, but you guys know what I mean. So there was the interesting thing, and so he's like, no, not defund, like reroute certain things, right?
Right.
And it was like, cool. Then they started engaging. So that's what we need, right? So it's starting to happen, right? That's why I always wait, like, especially for a while, because I'm like, dude, tempers are hot. Like,
Right.
as soon as the thing happens, don't touch it. Like,
Mhm.
don't touch it for a week to a month. And sometimes some things are stronger. Sometimes you have to wait 3 months, but things do cool down.
Right.
Because one of the great things, and maybe this is built in by design, so this is one of the positive things I'm going to say about us as human beings. We cool off. It's a mechanism built in, right?
Mhm.
Because we have a longer life, so we can't just keep focusing on one thing.
Right.
But on the flip side, so I'm kind of going a little bit off the board here, but on the flip side, we are in this technology age where everything's in our face all the time, so it can keep it emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that it's circumventing that built-in mechanism. So that can lead it to maybe this is nefarious,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe it's not, right? So we still got to keep our level head and talk about it, right? And fight it. So like, I'm all about like this communication. So there you go.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, and probably a poor choice for the people who do want to, quote unquote, defund the police. I don't think they. There are some people who just say, yes, we got to get rid of the police completely, and have anarchy, and they're even sort of trying this, right? There's this now Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Have you heard about this? Interesting stuff.
Heard don't know anything about it. I know the wording, but
Right.
like, break down the concept for me, if you will.
Well, basically what they've done is they've created an area in Capitol Hill in Seattle, and they've said we're autonomous, right? We don't need any outside help, and we're gonna have whatever law and order or justice is gonna be from within this community only, not imposed upon us by a government. That's an idea that's out there. Okay.
Okay.
But the majority of people who want to defund the police don't want to become an autonomous zone and reject all law and order. What they mean
Okay.
really is change the police or revise how policing is done, maybe, right?
Mhm.
And I think they would get a much better response if they were able to communicate that in a better way than to just say defund, because defund is like, oh, once the money is gone, there's no police. Well, yeah, it's true. If you don't pay them, they're not going to go out and do their jobs. But
Right.
what you mean is maybe fund them less, or fund them differently, or maybe train them differently, or
Right. Or only have them cover certain things. Right.
yeah, have a different sort of policing mentality is really, I think, what they're after. And so there's always this pull again for the most polarizing and emotionally charged language, right? So I'm sure there's plenty of people who said, hey, let's change the police, or let's, rethink how we have police training done, or let's retrain the police to be, a little bit more compassionate in their responses. But that doesn't get the headlines, right? Defund the police gets the conversation to that maximum attention level, but it also sort of breaks down the conversation, because you can go immediately, no, we can't defund the police. We need the police. Who's going to come if somebody's shooting at you? Who's going to come when your car breaks down on the side of the highway? We need those people, right? That's this intense emotional response. And I get that, right?
Right. Right.
You do need somebody who's going to come and help you out if guys with guns show up and try and rob you.
Right.
The question is, how should those people be trained, and what tactics should they use?
Right.
But that conversation doesn't seem to be happening enough, and
Right.
that's where we sort of have this linguistic breakdown, where one person is saying something and the other person is interpreting it to mean something more than what was intended, is reading into it
Right.
with their particular perspective, and not getting the full scope of the conversation, right? Because they've already had
Right.
that emotional response to it.
Right. Add in the human animal.
Mhm.
Right. So say someone gets an emotional response. It goes through no checks and balances. You take a stance, you make a comment, you go forward.
Right.
Here's the thing. As soon as it's challenged, it's really hard for people to go, my bad, I didn't think it through.
Mhm.
Right. What do people usually do, especially if they've responded out of an emotional response? Double down.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I've got to go with it. Like, even though, like, wait, there are a couple of things that I need to question about it. No, they're going to try to logic around it, and rightly so, because they have to be right at this point, because
Right.
they've already put their thing out there. So it's the human animal. We get ourselves in trouble like that. I think that's part of the issue. But like, our media is really good at fucking with us that way. Like, but us media, our media is us. It's our people, right? It's
Right.
a version of it's a part of our mind, right? So it's like we are the media as well. I love how like people externalize themselves from this thing, but it still is, right, part of us, right? Because we're sucked to it. We're the ones that fucking respond to it. If we
Right.
didn't respond to it, that wouldn't be powerful, right? They wouldn't capture our attention. So they have to have willing participants. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a tactic to use.
Right.
So we're all a part of the problem and the solution. So that's why we need to fucking like be breaking shit down.
Right.
We need to have these crucial conversations. We need to deheat, ice off, cool off these people, anybody that's really heated about it,
Mhm.
and get to a logical level with people that are kind, hopefully, and let's break it down and break it through, because there's enough lack of kindness. There's enough destruction.
Yeah.
We can continue to do that. Absolutely. I don't
Well,
think that's the way we want to go.
Yeah, it goes back to that
Or is it?
castle and moat sort of thing, right? If it's on the outside and I've already responded to it, I've already rejected it, then there's no need for me to check inside my castle and make sure that everything that I used to attack that was correct, right? But if we
Right.
do zero trust and we go, wait, I just had a really powerful emotional reaction, and I threw out some attacks based on this sort of idea or that thinking. Were those correct? Were those the right way for me to act? Was I virtuous, or was I just virtue signaling?
Right.
It's good, right? We need to
What?
pause here for a
Yes. Yes. So here's one of the things that I get caught up on. I'm going to be
Sure.
like honest. I'm going to open this up here. Virtue signaling. Like
minute.
really break that down, because like the people, I think people use that then and then just they use it as an argument, and people kind of get lost in that. And then people have said like 15, 20 words by the time people have really broken it down, and things have already gone into their subconscious, and they're really losing the battle already of logic and reason, right? Because they can't reason out what they don't fucking understand.
Sure.
So break down virtue signaling. People throw that out there all the fucking time. But do they know what they mean? And a lot of times they use it, I think, incorrectly, just because they want to call them something. It's almost like a nice way to call them a name, especially because it has virtue in it, right? So like break it down.
So in my understanding, virtue signaling is the act of posting on social media in support of some specific social cause that you think is widely accepted and respected, but in some corners, right, is not. It's a distinguishing, like saying, I'm in this group, I'm part of this group, I'm with their thinking, and I identify with them without.
So what's wrong with that?
Well,
oh, go ahead.
okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Right, I'm about to get to it. Without actually having to be virtuous, to act virtuously. All you've done is you've posted this, right? Companies are particularly guilty of this, right? They'll be like, hey, you know, it's Pride Month this month, and we're going to put rainbow flags and, you know, say how much of an ally we are to the LGBTQ community. But you're a company, right? You don't have any social virtue. You're simply there to make money. And you're right, when we start to break this down, we see that your actions have not changed. Only your social media posts have changed.
The actions don't follow the words,
right?
Especially within social media or some other way, where you say I'm with him, but you don't do those things, him or her, whoever, but you don't actually do the things that those people stand for.
Right.
That's the virtue signal.
Right. You're not you're claiming to be in a group that you want to be perceived as supporting a specific social cause, but in reality you couldn't care less. You're only doing it for the likes on social media, for the you know, the thumbs up and the upvotes and whatever social media platform. You're only there for the visibility, for the attention, right? Because we're an attention economy.
There it is. So it's to get attention. That's I think the big thing,
and be
that
perceived.
Makes sense. So
right,
yeah, to get the attention, be perceived in that, right? But ultimately it's to get attention.
Right.
That's interesting because we started like a couple of episodes ago with the whole we're trying to get your attention. Maybe it was even the first one, and I was like, wait, that's what it is. And now, okay, so now it's starting to make like I'll go with that a little better, and I'll track that train of thought. It's all about like attention. Interesting. And where our attention goes, who wants it. We only have so much of it, all of that stuff. So interesting. I like that. I really like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a way of using emotions or identification into a group, because group identification is a very emotional issue, right? If you see somebody acting, right, in a way that is out of group, and this happens all the time in driving, right? We all know the rules of the road. We all know that they're a little flexible, right? We know that you can speed a little bit. We know you can tailgate a little bit. But there are certain things that people do in their anonymous cars, and we know that they're not good, right? For the totality of us as drivers, right? And they're acting counter to our interests. Now,
right,
we have this immediate emotional reaction, like, you motherfucker, get the fuck over, pull over, you're doing 60 in the left lane, how dare you, right? you're not virtuous. You have no virtue on the road, right? Well, maybe something is going on in their mind. They're a little distracted, right? It happens to all of us. We've all made mistakes, but we don't have
Right.
that. We don't have that
Empathy
understanding,
at that
yeah, the
point.
compassion, the
Right.
empathy,
Or understanding.
right? Because
Yeah.
we've pushed them out of the group, right? You're just an asshole driver. I'm
Right.
sure I've
You're not
done
an
many
actual human
things
being like me.
driving along, and people have been like, "That guy's an asshole," right?
Oh, I'm sure you
I'm
have.
almost sure. Yeah, there's got to be like a 99.99%. But I don't mean to do that most of the time.
That's not your intention.
Right,
Yep.
that's not my intention, but it can easily be perceived that way. It can easily be seen as this person is acting out of group, right? They've gone beyond
Right.
the social norms, and they need to be punished immediately. And so that brings us back to the policing, right? It's always like
Right.
there's always a cop who gets you, and you see all the things that the cops don't get.
Sure.
Right, but if we were all held
That's
to that same standard, there'd be a lot more tickets going out, right? If the cops could see
Right.
everything.
Right. Right. That's one of those things that I think logically goes in my mind as I get angry at people.
Mm-hmm.
How did you pick like one of the emotional things for me,
Right.
Graham? Like
Yeah.
seriously, like because it is that one. It's so funny. Like there's so many things that people attack, especially in a very social justice way.
Mm-hmm.
When I am surprised that the world over, well, America, I'm just going to go with America for now, is not addressing specifically how we commute and travel, because
Mhm.
that's where most of our deaths happen and accidents happen. It's like that. And then it's like diabetes, right? There's accidents and cars on the road, stuff like that, because big metal machines driving really fast on the fucking highway is very lethal.
Yep.
Yet, it's getting worse and worse with all of the distractions that we have, all the people looking at their phones, everything. I mean, I've done it from time to time, but I intentionally try to do it to where it's like I don't fuck with it, because I know, like, I have to focus, I have to drive, and I absolutely, yeah, that's one of those things that heats me up,
Mm-hmm.
just driving, and our lack of actually caring about like that because that's one of the ones that takes our most lives per year per capita, period.
Yeah.
Just period. Like I was far ahead. Nobody cares though. It's like, no, let's worry about these other things that are a little more emotional.
Right.
That are a little more like, oh, we could do something about that. Yet it's one we can systematically do something more about, I think. So it's interesting. But
Yeah.
it's my
So,
thought. So go ahead.
I mean, this is why I love driving. I really enjoy it. But yet, I think that we really need self-driving cars ASAP, right? Because even the people who are really good drivers, and everybody thinks they're a really good driver, are human, and they make mistakes, and they
True.
have, moments of inattention, and their phone's going off in their pocket, and is it important enough for me to pull it out and look at it? I don't know, and bam, I just hit somebody, right?
Right.
This happens all the time, and we just sort of accept it. Well, that's the price that we pay for the freedom of being able to drive.
Right.
It just got hellish in there. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, no, I noticed that. I was like, wow,
Wow.
the dude. Apparently, you hit on something
Yeah.
very
Well, I mean,
interesting.
this is an emotional thing, right? We have all been like so heated on the highway,
Absolutely.
and when we do
Me
that,
especially. Uh-huh.
it's like it's so easy to see the other person as just the other. They're not even a
Right.
human being anymore. They're just an asshole in a car. Fuck them, right? They gotta,
Right.
you know.
Distance them from the group as
Yeah.
much as possible so you could truly treat them like the non-human they
Less
are.
than,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, less than. There you go. So to pull them away from us, because then when they come back into like, oh, they're a human, they have problems and issues and distractions just like me. Then it's a lot harder
Right.
because we empathize,
Right.
and we get that. Yes. So yeah, that's just there's a lot of lack of empathy going around.
Right. So that's where
for sure.
some zero trust can come in. Is like, hey, why am I having all
Yeah.
of these emotional reactions when I'm out on the road? Like, what causes these? What is the origin of me having these fast emotional reactions?
Right.
You know.
Some of them can be me actually, right? Changing my perspective and framing it.
Right.
But also, motherfuckers, like, pay attention to the fucking rules. Like, seriously, this is where I'm gonna get heated, okay? Like, seriously, like, I'm gonna at least come out of here a little bit because, dude, that's one of the things I will post on fucking Facebook. I'm never on Facebook, but I will post, like, here's another thing to where I think a cop did a great thing because they post these things are like, look, stay out of this lane, okay? This is the lane for, like, people that want to go fast. It is not your duty to get the fuck in front of them and slow them the fuck down. Like, you're putting everybody at fucking risk. Sorry, get the fuck over. Like, be in the middle lane, be in the right-hand lane. No, but that's okay. So we just shift. And what I do now is I drive fast in the right lane because that's the fast lane now. Just the fast lane for logical people. Because apparently everybody else goes into the left lane to chill the fuck out, check out their phone, and drive grandma on their Sunday fucking drive. Dude, fucking awesome. So I feel very passionately about that.
Yeah.
Obviously.
We got an emotional reaction there.
Yeah, exactly. But it was funny. So it's funny because, like, you have different perspectives, right? So there's other people, right, in other towns, which this is interesting because I had somebody that was like, I hate tailgaters. And I'm like, well, then get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
He's like, so we went go back and forth. And right, I distanced him, and we took two sides. I'm the side of get the fuck out of the way, right? Follow those rules, but I'm also not following the rule of following the speed limit, right? So I'm at fault too, but still, you're impeding my ability to choose my freedom, right? Well, I'm for them too, but it's not your job to enforce it, right? So follow the courteous rules of, like, get the fuck out of the way. So I set two sides. Turns out they're talking about where they are on one lane highways. And I'm going, oh, that's totally different. I'm so sorry. I would never fucking like tailgate you for that. That's ridiculous. No. And it was like, it's right. So you got to get to the communication sometimes before you like pull on the heat. I know that for sure because I'm a very passionate person. I get heated quickly, and some people will correct me and go like, and I'll be like, oh God, I did not need to react like that. I apologize. And then I feel dirty because I'm like, wow, I could have circumvented that totally. And I did. That's okay. But I learn, and I'm okay. And I will admit when I'm wrong. And I love taking in data because new data gives me new ways of thinking about things. And life gets pretty boring when the shit's always the same. You don't learn new stuff. So I'm curious, but I'm also passionate, clearly, as you just saw. So thank you for being able to express that. And I think that's a good allegory for what's happening, right?
Right.
You have people that are like, dude, fuck the cops, kill them all. We have no place in the society anymore. You have other people going like, my family are actually a family of cops. And they've done a great job. They've saved many people. They actually are mentors for other people because of it. They are godfathers. They are all of these things. You're going to throw them out with the trash? Like, I don't get that. Like, why would they do that, right? Thus, you've set the two sides. So, yeah.
So, as in most cases where this happens, there's a little bit of truth on both sides, right? Yeah, I'm speeding. But also... you shouldn't be in the left-hand lane if you're going to go slow, right? And then the question becomes, whose right is more right? Who has more like virtue, right?
Legitimacy of right, yeah.
But in reality, both people are actually wrong, right? The person who's going slow in the left-hand lane is wrong, and the person who's speeding is wrong, right? And it's probably equal. And yet neither one wants to be the one in the wrong, to take responsibility and say, yeah, I know I shouldn't do that. I'm sorry. I caused this, right?
Right.
And that's where we are on all these social issues. That, like, yes, there's truth on both sides, but nobody wants to go and say, yes, there's truth on both sides. I'm in the wrong. You're in the wrong. And now we have to work out a better system because this isn't working, right? I can't.
Right.
Right. We can't have people speeding and have people slow in the left-hand lane. We can't have the police murdering everybody, but we also can't just get rid of the police. Both of these are wrong, right? There's moral wrongness on both sides, and it's really hard to argue that the other guy's morality is more wrong if you also acknowledge that. It makes your argument seem weaker when in reality you're being more genuine and more likely to come to a consensus, to come to some sort of
an agreement.
Like
what's it called when you give up and you and give a little to take a little? It's an agreement, but there's an actual word for it. But whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the things also, I love languaging. I love words. They're very powerful, but sometimes I lose them and I lose the right word. But I'm sure somebody in the audience is going like, yeah, I know the word you're talking about, you
Yeah,
dumbass.
whatever.
And that's okay. It's okay.
We'll figure it
It
out.
could be considered that from time to time.
A compromise, I
But so
believe.
like, thank you. That is exactly the word. See, there you go. Sometimes it's just out there and it needs to come into the mind.
Takes a
It needs
minute.
to come into the castle. Hello, I'm here to the castle. Does somebody ring for me?
Yeah.
Yes. Get up there, compromise.
Yeah,
We were just asking about you. So, sorry, got to have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that's what we
yeah.
don't
So
have. We don't have the compromise. We don't have the
Right.
let me see it from your side so that I can figure this out. Right?
Right.
I would like to see the cops coming in and saying, hey, we see that we're being viewed in this light and there is some truth to it. But at the same time, can you see this from our point of view and what our daily reality is like and the kind of stress and madness that we have to deal with on a daily basis? Like, how can we find a better way to police ourselves?
Right. Just police ourselves. I love that. Exactly. What are those other things? How do we have other people? Absolutely. One of those things, like it just, I think about, especially just for the police. Again, not that I'm on any side because I'm thinking of all data. But one of the things is, so I think about any other job, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has good days and bad days, right?
Sure.
Okay. Just like in IT, that's why I got burned out on IT and I don't want to go back to IT because in IT, they come to you not because their computer's working fucking shiny, fancy, and it's fucking wonderful, and they're there to give you a big, wet, sloppy kiss because you're the IT guy. No, they're coming there because they need to learn something new. They need to be more efficient about something, but not really. That'd be kind of nice too. No, what they really want, something's broken. I have a fucking 10 o'clock meeting. If it's not fixed, I am staring in the eyes of the bad guy that did it.
Right.
And that's not true, but that's the transference that happens, right? Now, that's just fixing a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, transition to somebody towards your lives are in the lines. And at this point, no police officer anywhere ever can have a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Because from day to day, you never know what the fuck you're going to get into. Especially in high traffic, high profile, high crime, high whatever areas. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't get it. So no bad days for police officers. Sorry, guys. You have to be cream of the crop.
And no mistakes.
So it's interesting. And no mistakes ever. Like, absolutely. Because they are... That you really, like, because people's lives are on the line. And like that's... I mean, talk about a responsibility. I'm sorry. Like, I can't do it. Like, there's no way I'd be able to do it. I'm also very empathetic, and I think I'd be taken advantage of and probably get shot in the back of the fucking head. Also,
right?
Because I try to resolve something and then get fucked by one of the bad guys. But like, who knows? But that would just be over a long time in whatever, if I was in the police force, right? Because I don't have that that asshole front that you kind of need to come at with it. But do you really need to nowadays, right? That's the thing that we're adjusting and addressing. But people don't think through all of those things. I even start to think about it, and it stresses me and gives me anxiety. I'm like, whoa, no. And then I think about their families. Like, how does like a wife of a cop or a husband of a wife who's a cop go? Like, how do they think about when they're at home or they're at their job? How do they think about, like, is my significant other going to come home safe today?
Yeah. What
it's
crazy person
it's just weird
doing some crazy drug, or who knows what cause. Yeah. But shots are fired and you're dead, right? You have to live with the fact that you're out there on that line, that you're a target, right? And now even more so, right? So we've only made this problem worse by attacking the police, by saying, I say we, but there's this pushback against the police, right? And the police are trained that if you push them, they're going to push back. And so it's like this is this escalation,
never ending,
right? And so even by saying let's defund the police, that's an attack on them. That's saying, hey, we're going to pay you less money, or there's going to be less of you, less of your friends to call when shit goes wrong. Nobody wants to hear that. right? I wouldn't want to
Right.
hear that in IT. Hey, we're defunding IT. Fuck.
I'd be like, cool, change of careers.
Yeah,
This is
well,
awesome. This has been the thing I've needed.
you
Honestly, it's what
start
happened.
defunding
And there we
IT,
go.
and you end up with some podcasters. Is what happens.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see what Geek Out says, and then we'll transition to something, because I wanted to talk about that. So again, I say we have this page, and we're not going to get through but 3 bullet
I
points,
know.
dude. So, and it's okay, because this is good, this is important, and I feel like I love the feeling of this right now, because this is relatable. People can actually like go like, okay, wait, like that I get, and this is why we need to vet our thoughts, our processes, not respond out of emotion.
Yeah.
But let's see what Geek Out MN says. I think there are certain smaller things that add up on an officer's plate that could be delegated elsewhere. But for the most part, they are just out there trying to do their best like everyone. In general, I would agree with you, Geek Out. Now, obviously there's the other side, because it really sounds now all of a sudden this is a cast, and we're just taking, because the only thing we've talked about in the two sides is the police force and how stressful it should be for them, right?
Right.
We're not talking about the people of color and how stressful it is to be them just fucking living,
Sure.
right? So there is that side as well. I'm not I acknowledge that, like, this, I'm not going into this for a reason. It just was a good point of like how I feel stressed out about a person that is, it's a civil service to do. There are good and bad cops all the way though, because there are good and bad people. So it's just in every sense. So in both sides, again, you're gonna have good and bad people. So you got that. But I agree, most people, I think in general, are trying to do their best, right? They're just trying to do their jobs. Seriously. And you're absolutely right. And I think that's why, like, what was started this discussion, this part of the conversation was the defund was the wrong word. It's not the right word. Like we need to we've been talking about this. I mean, not we, but I think that the country's been talking about it, but we're not seeing any action, is why these things come about. Because like, you have to have, like, okay, we've been talking about it for a while. Rodney King got his ass beat. Those motherfuckers got off. We had to riot. Still, this shit's still a problem. Fucking 20 years later. What the fuck's going on? How many of them have to be killed? It's crazy. So like, I get it. I get why it's like, okay, we're not doing anything about it. Great. We're just going to fucking explode. The emotion bubbles up. Like, so we need to do something about it, but like, nobody's providing those solutions. Why isn't that the focus of the thing we need to fix? But maybe that's the background for what government's trying to shift. Could be maybe a nefarious first move, but ultimately the long run could be an altruistic mindset. Who knows? That could be a good way to set that up. There are many ways that you could play about it if you're a fucking long game chess thinker, a strategist, that could actually do. If I wanted to implement Sun Tzu's Art of War bullshit, not bullshit, that's really great strategy, it's just very cutthroat. That could be a longevity, like, very successful strategy. So like, who knows? You never know what people think is like on the long run in the horizon. Ooh, and we got some pixiness in here. She's going to balance us out too, which I love. Absolutely. So let's read into that too. Or do you want to say anything to that, like, Graham? Sorry about that. Going on a little bit.
No, I mean, that's a really good point, right? But the problem is that if you're an officer of the law, you have some sort of higher responsibility because lives are on the line.
Held to a higher standard.
Right?
Yep.
In IT,
correct,
unless you're in a very specific field, it's very unlikely that somebody will die because you made a mistake, right? Because you ignored that ticket, or you missed that warning from Nagios, or, whatever, right? It's very unlikely that people will die. Now, money might be lost,
right,
but it's not an irretrievable, that person will never live again mistake, right?
Right.
So that's one side. And the other side is, well, that's extremely stressful, right? For the person who has to go out and do that job. How do you support them? How do you make it easier for them to live that life where lives are on the line? People could die, the wrong people could die, or the right people might have to die, right? That's a crazy headspace to be in. And yet we just sort of, well, all cops are bad, or all cops are good, or we got to defund the police. We don't have this longer conversation that we're having now about what we could do, how we could change things, and how we should have a conversation that might be beneficial and fruitful to both sides, because both sides have some responsibility and have some fault.
Right. So yeah, Zerkala says, "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater." Yeah, and that was something I was saying earlier. Absolutely. So picture this was like so when people aren't heard, they call for change. Good point. Then the only way they see to deal with something is the extreme. No. Yeah, that just usually like they're not seeing change. They call for change. It's not dealt with. They go to the extreme. The idea of police has lost its meaning. It's turned into some weird domestic military, and you shouldn't ignore it. Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, it becomes like this to where it's like, even if you've not done anything wrong, right? You walk by the police, all of a sudden your mannerisms change, right? It's like, oh, did I do anything wrong? Did I leave the weed in my pocket? Well, wait, I shouldn't have done that, right? Or whatever. Anything that you've ever done in your life has come flashing back to you, like, oh fuck. So yeah, no, it's like that consistent policing, right? Well, this is why it's called, and we even use it now as the thing of like, you're not the police, you're not the one that gets to like enforce these. So that's like, wow, that's the mode with which we are enforced. And yeah, that's a good point. We need to start breaking down that concepts in our mind, and it should only be for the response of the critical of the real crazy stuff out there, right? Because like, I mean, calls of domestic violence don't necessarily need a cop with a gun, right? They're going to need somebody that's going to be able to help subdue somebody, maybe it is, but it should be with maybe a counselor as well, right? It's something else, right? There's those things. I know there's multiple things that get routed to police that it's like, wait, why the fuck? Are you kidding me? I mean, there's no way that these guys get training like, well, anyway, because they can't do their main job, let alone try to do this, let alone people in psychology that are just as fucked up trying to fix people. Like, dude, what? Like, no, that we need to do something about it. We definitely do. So it's not defund. We need to change words. Like but that's how but it's out there. So that's good. Like that's the thing that I'm going to take away. I'm going to go with it is like, good. That's not the right way to do it. It's here. It's now. We're doing something about like, let's start breaking it down. But again, the fighting is where we kind of need to like pull the emotions down. Okay. Let's talk about it. Let's go through it. Okay. Did everybody get their emotions out? Do we have this more places need to be popping up to where we can destroy things, right? like destroy old office furniture and shit. I heard there's one in LA. There's one in LA where you can go and do that, and companies do this to where they go and they take their people out as like a fucking outing. That's what we need more of. We need to get our aggression out, because obviously aggression and war is built in for some fucking reason into our DNA. So we need to get it out somehow. So like, let's at least do that. Like, let's address that also. Well, not just again throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because if you don't address it, those people that are really good at it will take over in force, and then we really will have a society that's controlled.
Yeah.
Because the people with the guns and the fucking power, and I mean physical power, and we just revert back to the old tribal system, but it's just more technologically advanced. And I don't think anybody wants that, like truly. But that can be the state that we can get to. Like, honestly, if we don't both, like, I think two sides don't go like, and I know there's more sides than that, but the big strong sides that are creating the conflict, and there's a bunch of people in the middle going like, well, get me out of this, please. No, they're going to be swept up in the fucking heat and battle of it. So, because we're all family and we're all connected.
Yeah. I mean, we're all human beings, right? And
there you go.
Yeah. What we lose is that compassion. What we lose is that interconnectedness and the focus on, you are also living a life, and human life is complicated and ambiguous, and there's a lot of suffering and confusion and chaos in it, right? And you have to deal with that as well, not just me, right? I'm dealing with that, but you also have to deal with it. And so maybe I should back up and think, wait a minute, hold on, zero trust. Let me go through my processes. Let me go through my thinking. And what's interesting is that we're starting to have more transparency, more clarity, and more accountability because of technology, right?
Yes.
So the whole reason that this dialogue is happening is because a particular incident was recorded and broadcast on a cell phone.
Right.
Before, that couldn't happen, right?
Yep.
Before the technology existed where everybody had a phone in their pocket, or all of the cops are carrying these body cams, right?
Which are never turned on, apparently.
Well,
What the fuck?
I think that should be a very serious violation of trust.
Absolutely. And it also should be out of their control. It should
Right.
not be in control of the police. It should be turned on by another entity altogether.
Yep.
Checks and balances, motherfucker. That's what we made this democracy on.
Yeah.
It's time to implement that shit. Absolutely.
Yeah. From an
So, like, if you
IT
feel like I'm on one
standpoint,
side or the other, no, I'm not. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
it makes no sense. Like, it should
Yeah,
be
from, like-
uploaded to the cloud and encrypted, and then only pulled down when there's some question, some issue, right? So
Yep.
it's not owned by the police. It's owned by some different authority, and only they have the decryption keys. And if it's like, oh, hey, Officer X did Y,
Yeah,
then
so nobody can watch it.
hey, let's go back and we'll pull that footage and we'll look at it, right?
Right, almost like the keys to the nuclear, right? The
Right.
nuclear system. You have to have multiple checks and balances to
Yeah.
do that. I think that would see. There's the thing, because I know there's the flip side to where it's like you're gonna cops that you turn it on all the time, every time. You're gonna have their personal conversations, and then people are gonna be able to like do something with that, which
Right.
that's not good. That's not gonna foster openness. That's not gonna foster people. I mean, it could also foster like people fucking actually doing their jobs right. Also, but you don't know. But
Right.
again, they're people. Like, we are people.
Yeah.
So like.
Here's a
There you go.
question. Would you
Yeah.
be open to having a body cam yourself at all times? Just living your life?
No.
No, of course not.
No.
Right? Nobody
No.
wants that. But what we
No.
need is we need accountability.
Some people might.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's how this Twitch thing got started. It's like, hey, I'm going to live cast my entire life just in TV. But in
Yes.
general, we value privacy, right? And I understand that, right? You don't want just anybody to have access to the information of your daily life. There's simply
Right.
too much vulnerability that comes along with that, right?
Right.
So there needs to be accountability, but there also needs to be protection of that data,
Right.
right? It can't
Privacy.
just
Protection and privacy.
right?
Yeah.
So from an
Which is
system
almost
engineering
contradictory.
standpoint, yeah, from a system engineering
go ahead.
standpoint, that's very difficult to build.
Hmm.
But if it was built, I think we would see how policing is done change very dramatically. If there was
Absolutely.
always the understanding that while you're on duty, in uniform, doing your job, you're going to be recorded, but that recording will only be accessible when
If an abuse of
When
or
there's-
in these circumstances.
right some legal challenge, right? Some court of law makes a request to that
that requires it.
archive
Mhm.
and says we need to
Right.
look at that particular day and time and see what happened.
Right. Right. Cool. We'll close out the technical and all that stuff there, because we're getting down to the wire here, and I want to read. There's a couple more comments. So
Okay.
So Geek Out says, yep, I would never take away what they go through. My uncle was an officer who had to change professions because of the things they saw, and people don't realize what the cops can go through. Well, yeah, that's the psychological damage that it does by, like, I think even the person perpetrating it, right? Even the person that has to defend themselves and shoot someone else, like that changes a person.
Yeah.
Period. End of sentence. That can't not change a person. Unless you're what's the psychotic sociopath. Unless you're a sociopath. But then there you go. That's telling. So like, but in general, we are not. So like it just does. But like again, so it's like, and for like on both sides, like either you become a hardcore fucking criminal that like enjoys it, right? But again, that's a sociopath. And he's right and he's right in quotes. Oh, he's right, comma, and he's right, question mark. They can't both be right. Teve, I don't know what that is. You are also right. Teve, can you read that? I don't know what that means. Berserkla. Oh, Fiddler on the Roof. Thank you. You are also right.
Yeah.
You both can't be right. That's the thing, especially if they're, what was that? Yeah, we'll have to go into that. We'll have to start that. The next one, which is the contradictory, when we were talking about, when I brought up Ayn Rand and Anthem, because you were talking about 1984.
Yeah.
Just state the concept, which
well,
is
it's the idea of doublethink.
remember?
Yeah.
Thank you.
right?
Double think.
Two contradictory ideas that you hold in your head, and you accept both of them
As true.
as true.
Right.
Even though you know
So we're gonna leave you with that. Oh, go ahead.
Logically, you can't be.
Yeah,
But you got to hold
but
them both in
you hold
both
it
in your
as
head.
true.
Yeah.
Both is true. Right. So just think on that. And I'm gonna complete the thing because I think Geek Out says one more thing. So yeah, that's a great reference. Berserkla. I don't know why. Like I didn't know that. Well, I don't know a lot of things. I don't know like great references either. So that's great job. All right. And then Geek Out says, I believe those who want power gravitate to this profession and can easily go to their head. Well, yeah, there's the other side. Exactly right. It definitely needs to be accountability. The other cops can call out the attitude when it's seen. Yeah, but that's also hard because a lot of the mentality is we're a brotherhood, right? And you don't tattle on your brotherhood, right? Is a thing too. They're very gangster in a way, in a sense. But that's the thing that we need to break down because it's no longer useful. Right, we need to change that.
Yeah,
some of the cops may not agree with me, but there you go.
Yeah,
and those are all the comments. Go ahead.
I mean,
because I don't want. Go ahead.
Fundamentally, it's become clear that something isn't working, right? In our own internal systems, and coming from a background of system engineering, I think that we can re-engineer the system to work much better for both the police and for the civilians, right? We got to come up with a better way. And
absolutely,
the defunding again is such a bad communication standpoint. It needs to be a remediation, a mediation between the grievances of the civilians, which are legitimate in many cases, and the need for the police to do their jobs and protect people. Right.
Protect and serve.
Protect and serve. Yeah.
You're serving the people. Yeah, that's the way it is. And so our intention was not to actually go really into the topic specifically and address like the one side of the police, because this sounds very one-sided. This is not our intent. It's not what we're trying to do. We'll get more onto the other side as well. We're going to wrap up though, because it is 9 o'clock.
Yep.
We thank everybody for actually putting in, comments and engaging. We really do love that, because we want to know what's on your minds that we could talk about as well. We also had a whole document that had about like 8 different points. We got through maybe 1.5, which is like that. And that's how it goes. And that's okay. So I think Entropy Sword for this next one, just use this again. Okay, don't make it. It's 6 and 7. Okay, we're going to start connecting them together. And if you want to add more stuff in there, that's fine. But like, let's do that together, because we want to get onto this. And also we want to get onto the other side, because like it's like that. I don't want to feel sided. And for me, that now feels like, oh wow, I spent half the time talking about that. And then again, the people of color and people that are being attacked on a daily basis are going like, oh cool, this is what happens, right? This is always what happens. We don't talk about them but not us. What the fuck? So like, and I get that that's not what it's about. Like, it's obviously, and it's also not about the two sides either. It's about everybody. We all need to do different things. So please don't misunderstand. Right. So, but yeah, so I'm not going to gauge in any more questions, but like, I just want to thank you. And we're going to get through some of these deeper things, but it's really about how do you create the zero trust? How do you address like, ooh, how do I feel about that? The emotions are going to come up. How do we work through it? How do I create you break it down to zero trust and build up from there, and actually vet the trusting system and believe in the sources, and then move forward to make remediations after the mediation was happened, not after the immediate emotional response of a thing. And that's the full intent of this. And it's to talk about many different concepts and ideas that we go through that we get stuck on. It just happened to be that this is one of the high fire ones that we did tonight. So well, I mean, thank you guys so much.
It really
is, appreciate it. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's such an emotional topic, and it sort of sucked us in with its power of emotion. So I hope that we did a good enough job thinking through both sides and trying to respect both sides and understand both sides. But in reality, I don't have full visibility into either side's lived life. And so I can only come at it from my own perspective and my own thinking. And trying to investigate it a little bit deeper. And that's what we're doing, is digging down and seeing, hey, where are our biases? What sides are we pulled to, and why? And then let's see if we can destroy those biases and come back in episode 7 with a whole new perspective. So I guess we'll see you next Sunday.
I like that. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. All right.
Think through things.